You know, ever since I was a kid, I've been given a lot of advice over the years. People telling me not to stick a fork in an outlet. If my friends were to jump off a bridge, would I do it too? And most importantly, when you're in your mid-20s, don't buy a BMW M6 with a V10. Well, I've listened to 2 of those pieces of advice. Yes, without any theater or delay, this car has a naturally aspirated 5-liter V10. For people who are not car people, that means that this thing goes... This thing has 507 horsepower, which for 2006 was a massive number. And I mean, in all fairness, even today, that is by no means slow. I think that a lot of the YouTubers who are making these crazy 1,000 horsepower twin turbo super builds are kind of overselling horsepower, because when your car is that fast, believe me, it's not exactly daily drivable. Unless it's a Tesla Model S Plaid, in which case it's an electric car. They're pretty easy to deal with. For those unfamiliar, the reason why this car has a reputation is for 2 words: rod bearings. Right now the car has just under 100,000 miles on it, and it has had a very colorful history. And that's why I was able to buy it for less than $10,000. In total, this car cost me about $9,200 US. And considering that it has the powertrain that it has and is overall in good shape, minus this front bumper doing what it does, I'd say it's a pretty good deal. Now, ever since I was a little kid, one of the things that I wanted to do before I was 25 was get myself into a V10 supercar. I have a V10 supercar that I paid pennies on the dollar for, and for good reason. The aforementioned rod bearings issue that I mentioned is a serious one, and even the ACL race bearings are still a little bit tighter than they probably should be. And that's just kind of an unfortunate consequence of the origin of this engine. See, the BMW S85, the V10 that is powering this car, and the M5, was designed by BMW's F1 team. With that in mind, this was a bunch of engineers designing a race motor to put in a road car. And that also affects things more than just the reliability. For example, this car gets around 13 miles per gallon combined highway and city driving, which I suppose isn't the worst thing in the world, but considering I could charge my Tesla here at the house and go, 220 miles on a single charge and it'll cost me $3, the $110 US that this car costs to fill up suddenly makes a lot less sense. But then again, I don't think any of us are actually buying a V10 BMW M6, a slick back coupe, for practical daily driver use. Let me show you why I bought it. Whew! All right. My car is equipped with the SMG, and what that means is that it is a sequential manual gearbox, not to be confused
submachine gun
with with a submachine gun, but not to be confused with a manual or an automatic. It is not a slush box, but it is also not a true manual. Simply just because there is no it's slow to the ground too. Just because there's no third pedal. Yeah, with suspension that's this like rough. Also, yeah, that right there is one of the silly quirks of my car in particular. Whenever I turn at low speeds when the car is just getting warmed up, the car shakes a bit and kind of stutters, and I think it's the gearbox being angry for some reason. I don't really know why, but since it only happens when it's cold and only usually at low RPMs when turning, it's the most BMW thing about this car is that there's some bizarre specific problem that it has that is inexplicable and strange. When I first bought this car, I bought it from a dealership, Go Mitsubishi, in Langley, British Columbia, and they got this car as a trade-in. The guy that traded this car in traded it for a Volkswagen e-Golf, which is a bizarre, it is an extremely bizarre car to like side grade to, I suppose. The dealership even said to me themselves, like, we probably could have sold this for so much more if we just tidied it up a bit. Getting new tires for this car sucked quite a bit.
Let's go fast.
We're getting a first-hand experience with this car right now because it had like an eighth of a tank when we started this drive, and it's now at like a tenth of a tank, just because it takes up so much goddamn fuel. It's not that bad on the highway.
He's just thirsty.
He's thirsty. He's so thirsty. You know, the exhaust note is amazing. The fact the radio doesn't work is a feature because it encourages you to listen to the car. It's a very fun car to slam gears in and just take for a drive, not with anywhere in particular to go, and it just handles so well. That was another M6. Weird. I've taken this to a couple of meets, and people look at it like it's a fucking alien. It's actually really incredible because you would kind of expect, you know, car guys to know of an M car like this, especially one with an engine as prolific as the V10. People know the M5, but I've had to explain to people what this car is, what its transmission is, the fact it has a V10. They're like, oh, does it have a V8? I was asked by a guy if it had a V8, like when I was just driving casually, and he was like, "Is that car have a V8?" I'm like, "No, V10." He's like, "Oh, that's pretty cool."
Like, that's a bigger number.
That's a bigger number. That
Wow.
bigger number means more better. I haven't had any issues with general performance. Like, it handles around corners incredibly well. It can actually pull, I believe, one lateral G, basically exactly, which is quite impressive for a car of its age. That puts it in McLaren F1 handling territory, which I know is going to make people mad in the comments.
It does sound nice when it goes fast.
Oh yeah, the higher revs, it's just such a it's such a treat to listen to. And if you press the M button, I have mine configured so that it actually is it's in the most aggressive shift mode, and it moves. Like here, if I
So speedy.
The Tesla, it jerks you, especially at low speeds, and it's quick. But this car is fast, like properly fast. And top speed from the factory, if you remove the limiter, is around 205, 207 miles an hour. But with the limiter, it's like 163. Oh, and then there's the part of the car that isn't fun. Oh boy.
It's fucking broken. Yeah, that's old. I don't know.
You mother...